So welcome to the Science of Mind, everybody. Welcome to the study of life and the nature of the laws of thought, the conception that we live in a spiritual universe, that God is in us, around us, and for us. And you heard that before, but I also want to talk about the other definition that Dr. Holmes wrote. He says, science of mind is also a correlation of the laws of science, the opinions of philosophy, and the revelation of religion applied to human need and the aspirations of humankind. So our topic today is rise above appearances. It's time to rise above appearances. Well, what exactly does that mean? I think it means to awake. It means to wake up and be really present in each moment, to be aware of your senses, who you are, where you are, is waking up. One simple area that has changed in an accelerated way is in physical movements around. An example is the speed in which an increasing number of people seem to act as though others are not aware of their need to go faster, do more, be there, and more quickly than the rest of us. I'm talking about driving on the road. You notice how people are more aggressive. They want to be there quicker than usual. And you and I have to somehow manage ourselves, be aware, be self-aware that we can manage ourselves. Check out the speed with which people are driving. I have to wake up to how alert I am on the roads these days. I find myself getting caught up in the tempo of move over, get out of my way. You can't drive. Drive in the slow lane. You know, you hear these things resounding in you and you know it's coming from somewhere. It's coming from your stressful mind. And you begin to feel impatient with others. So observing how that same feeling transfers in other areas of your life. This is where the key is. We have to see that that doesn't spill over in the rest of our lives. But when we notice that, we should be tooled enough to be able to handle it. So answer the question for yourself. What effect within yourself are you aware of when you have to deal with that kind of stress? How do you feel when it appears that others are not caring, not concerned about the safety of your own and others' lives? What language do you wish you could speak out loud about that thing that's going on? And that how you think others need to hear, what you think others need to hear about the situation. So as a spiritually aware, awake person, what rating do you give yourself? Do you think you deserve? You ever rated yourself as a spiritual being in the midst of discord, in the midst of confusion, in the midst of high speed and reckless behavior? Rate yourself as a spiritual being. What do you think you deserve to be able to rate yourself with? Do you feel concerned for others when you see abuse of privilege of any kind? What do you do with you? How do you live in that? If you had to judge your reactions and behavior, what would it look like? What are you spiritually aware of when you notice these actions and reactions? So I'm calling us to mind to us is that we need to think about who we are in the world and how we react to world affairs. Because our spirituality can bring us into perfect balance. Do you ever think of a more peaceful and compassionate way to react. So if you're driving and somebody is pushing around and trying to get past you to right on your bumper, your back bumper, and you get out of the way, are you feeling peaceful enough to be compassionate, to react in a compassionate way? For most of us today, it means how we are becoming more conscious of our self-awareness and its relationship to spiritual practice. Because our spiritual practice has a lot to do with how we react in circumstances that cause stress. In the Gospel of Luke, I looked up what the Bible had to say about things like that. I found in the Gospel of Luke, it says they were ready about to being awake. When they awake, they saw his glory and the two men that stood with him. That was Jesus with two men, and his disciples had drifted off into a sleep. So when they awoke, they saw him, they saw his glory, they saw not just his physical body, they saw his spiritual radiance. They saw what he was about, what his essence really was. So that's what happens when we wake up. Jesus was brought to the ruler of the synagogue's house. I don't know if you remember this story. Jesus was brought to the house of the leader of the synagogue. And news came to the ruler that his daughter was dead. And Jesus looked at him and said, "Fear not, believe only, and she shall be made whole." So when he got to the house, when the ruler got to the house and Jesus went with him, Jesus said, "I want to have Peter, James, and John, and the father and mother of the girl with me to stay with him." So then he said, "Weep not. She is not dead, but sleepeth." You know what happened after that? They laughed at Jesus. They said, "He's dead, she's dead," and they continued to laugh. His reaction was, he put them out and took the girl by the hand and called her, saying, "Maid, arise." And her spirit came again, and she arose straight away. And he recommended to give her some meat, something to eat. He had to operate within himself. He could not depend on his followers to support him. They were laughing at him when he said, "She is not dead, she's just asleep." They actually laughed. And you know, sometimes that happens to us. When we try to say something that is peaceful in a situation, people laugh at us and they expect you to either join them or make a difference. So the question is, can I rise above the appearances? Dr. Holmes says, evolution is the awakening of the soul to a recognition of its unity with the whole. Material evolution is an effect, not a cause. That's on page 337, paragraph 2. Evolution is the awakening of the soul. And he said material evolution is an effect, it's not a cause. So if we are focused on effects, we will find ourselves under more stress. We have to focus at the level of cause. Sometimes we get caught up in the appearances and find ourselves either feeling indifferent or uninterested or even not caring. Sometimes you just shake your shoulders and walk away. We need to wake up and not act that way because we are not being a beneficial presence in that case. Sometimes when we get caught up in appearances and find ourselves either feeling indifferent or uninterested, even not caring, listening to the news from our favorite TV stations, we can get caught up in the feeling of hopelessness, indifference, or even, again, not caring. You just throw it out. So in the book of Romans, it says, love worketh no ill to his neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfillment of the law. Jesus back then time was teaching people how to deal with stressful circumstances. You have to go to love, the total opposite of what appears. Love is harmonizing. Love is cooling. Love is soft and gentle. Love is healing. So he says, love works no ill to his neighbor, and love is the fulfillment of the law. So knowing that, knowing the time that now is high time to awake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer than when we believed. You'll find that again on chapter 13, verse 11, unquote. Dr. Holmes on page 339 says, evolution is a principle which, though invisible, finds manifestation in every form of life. It is the logical or necessary outcome of universal intelligence or spirit, but evolution is an effect of intelligence and not its cause. So if we look at evolution and say that's what's causing it, no, evolution is a result. Evolution can only follow involution. Involution, that means change the thought, the internal aspect, and the effect changes. We must rise out of a sleep of indifference to what is commonly referred to as today's stuff. A lot of hear about that. That's today's stuff. And find from within a love and a caring that dissolves indifference and brings us back to a consciousness of love and caring. That's what we are called to be. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, but we don't have to let the human experience be the driver. So back to knowing the time that now is high time to awake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer than when we believed. Do you remember I read that to you? That means that time has been in our favor because we have had and are having the opportunity to develop our spiritual conviction. We have an opportunity to develop our spiritual conviction. When we develop our spiritual conviction, we can manage the world a lot easier with less stress, because the origin of all change is love. If we didn't have love, we wouldn't be where we are. Love is God and God is love. How do we do that? By regular meditation, reading books on spiritual practice, attending gatherings of like-minded people like we are today, playing games even, and developing relationships that feed the spirit and bless the soul. These are ways in which we can create change, internal for ourselves. It all begins with me. Remember that. You say that to yourself. It all begins with me. It doesn't begin with somebody else. And we don't point a finger, because when we point a finger, We have 4 other fingers pointing back at us. Try that. See what that is? 4 fingers pointing back at you. So here are some recommendations. I'm recommending some books that can help in making that shift. Books like this one, The Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes, which you have. Living the Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes, which you should have. Real Love by Greg Bear, who is a medical doctor. I got to meet him, and I used his book to do workshops. Another book, A Passion for the Possible by Jean Houston. Another one, Vibrational Medicine by Greg Bear. No, not Greg Bear, by Richard Gerber. Vibrational Medicine. It's a good thing to read. It helps us to understand what's going on in our bodies. This Thing Called You, This Thing Called Life, Can We Talk to God? Those last 3 books are all written by Ernest Holmes, and they are available from our library, from our bookstore. Remember, a silent pause opens the listening channel, which is built into our nature. A silent pause. Remember, work is love made visible. Remember to forgive everyone, love everyone, be at peace in the world. We say spirituality is natural goodness. God is not a person, God is a presence personified in us. Spirituality is not a thing. It is the atmosphere of God's presence, goodness, truth, and beauty. And I thank you for listening this morning. And I hope that something you heard today from what I have said that helps you to deal with a stressful world. So here are my 10 take times and recommendations. And I know you know this, but I want you to hear it again as if you're hearing it for the first time. Take time to muse. Take time to reflect. Take time to be silent. Take time to be in awe. Take time to contemplate. Take time to meditate. Take time to be alone. Take time to be quiet. Take time to hear the silence, and take time to know yourself. Those are my 10 take times that I wrote out of meditation. So love everyone, forgive everyone, remember who you are. You are already perfect. Your purpose and your life can be revealed to you clearly. You, perhaps, are just realizing that. Time to wake up. God bless you. And so it is. Namaste.